There are 118 islands in the Venetian lagoon, but what's that got to do with that dirty floozy Casanova? Casanova hails from Venice, and there is apparently an island in the lagoon for each one of his lovers. We're going to spend our day island hopping and unravel some of the myths and legends of Giacomo Casanova and unravel some of the myths and legends of Giacomo. We're on the island of Burano, which is famous for glass making. Now, there's nothing specific about this island that lends itself to glass making, and in fact, the only reason why it happens out here is for safety reasons. All those furnaces involved in glass blowing meant that there was a high chance that a fire could occur. And they wanted to make sure that if that happened, that it didn't happen on the main laguna of Venice. So what have we learned? That not only is safety sexy, but it's bloody good for tourism. We did our tour at Wave Murano Glass. They are a new and exciting business, but the lads in the workshop are old masters. The tour was a really informative and up-close experience where they took us through the process of building the glass from mixing the elements to the hot shop where they shape and form their pieces. Tyler had a go at holding one of the blowpipes, which was bloody heavy, before we finished in the cold shop where they shape and finish the glasswork. The skill and finesse at every step is unreal, and the tour was truly remarkable.
Casanova's name is synonymous with being a ladies' man. It's his sex exploits that he's most known for. So you might find it hard to believe that when he was 17, he was actually studying to join the church. It was during this time that he lost his virginity to a pair of sisters, Nanita and Marta Savranon. And it was this act that drove Marta to the nunnery. And she spent the rest of her life praying every day for the soul of Casanova.
Fresh.
Classic dishes around Venice and the other islands in the lagoon are fried mixed seafood called fritto misto, polenta and cuttlefish ink risotto. They would only serve the risotto as a double portion at the restaurant, and we wanted to get a mix of dishes, so we opted for the cuttlefish ink spaghetti instead.
Two things. One, it's a risky day to wear a white top. I'm just realising this now. Two, we ate a lot of the cuttlefish stick along the Dalmatian coast in Croatia, and this is what we were searching for. I finally got it. This is really delicious. I'm not taking any risks. Burano is known for two things, lace making and its colourful houses. The true history of lace making seems to be lost, but there are a couple of legends surrounding it. The first of which is that a young sailor was completely besotted with a young Venetian girl. He gifted her an aquatic plant called mermaid's lace. She, having to part from him, was so besotted that she tried to immortalise the plant by recreating it with the silk that was available, and thus lace making was born. The other school of thought suggests that because Venice was such a huge powerhouse along the Silk Road, people started to make lace using the silk that was available to them. Nowadays, it's made with cotton, but still pretty. As for the colourful houses, the accepted story is rooted in Burano being a fishing village. The morning mist surrounding the 118 islands of Venice is legendary. and the colourful houses helped fishermen make their way back safely to Burano. Much like we've been island hopping today, Casanova would jump around from city to city trying to escape the fuzz. They wanted him on account of his sexual vagrancy. Eventually, the Venetian police caught and arrested him. He was sentenced to 5 years imprisonment without trial, and he was held in the Doge's Palace prison. Not one to sit around, he escaped, and he was the first person to ever do that. He hid out in Paris and didn't return to Venice for 18 long years.
His time in Paris was fruitful. Besides being promiscuous as heck, he was a renowned mathematician. He spent his time with Parisian contemporaries like Rousseau and Voltaire, and he was the one that introduced the lottery to Paris. So not only was he a promiscuous fella, he was a dirty gambler and good at it too.
So let's talk about logistics getting around the island. When you're on the Venice lagoon, you're going to find a lot of tour operators offering to take you to Murano and Burano in a package. You can choose to do that if you want, but the more cost-effective way to do it is to get a single day pass. It'll cost you €25 and you have unlimited stops, and that way you can go to as many islands as you want. This is particularly helpful if you're like us and have parked outside of Venice. We added an extra day on top of our pass for €35, and then we get transport in and out. It's also a sneaky way to travel the Grand Canal in a really inexpensive way. Rather than going on that gondola, you can just ride the water buses up and down the canal as much as you like, but normally it costs $9.50 for a single ticket. Go your hardest. Once you're actually in Murano and Burano, it's going to be heaving. Don't just assume that you can get on the 120 bus and you'll be able to skadooch out of there. We're travelling at the start of the shoulder season, so this is early March for us, and it's already lines and lines and lines.
We already missed a water bus to get to Burano from Murano.
So this little vaporetto it's pretty bloody schnazzy, but this is because we're heading to
Torcello.
But you're only going to get this experience when you go to Torcello, or you go and experience some of the other islands outside of Murano and Burano. We've made our way to Torcello for a couple of reasons. The first is to see what some of the other islands outside of Murano and Burano look like. And this is pretty quiet. It's a completely different experience altogether. Another reason is to see the Cathedral of Maria Assunta behind me, which is apparently the oldest building in all of the Venetian lagoon from during the time of the Byzantine Empire. Another reason is to check out Attila the Hun's throne. Attila the Hun supposedly spent some time in Torcello when he was kicking about the region, trying to bring an end to the Roman Empire. There's no real fact about this story, but it doesn't stop hundreds of school kids coming here to sit on the throne and taking a bunch of selfies. The final reason is to check out Ernest Hemingway's old watering hole. This bloke has bars dotted all across Europe, but it was here in Torcello where he wrote the book in 1948, across the river and into the trees. Apparently a bunch of other famous people have spent some time here as well. Margaret Thatcher, Charlie Chaplin, Princess Diana and Prince Charles before they divorced. And apparently during the Venice Film Festival, all the stars will catch a water taxi and come out here to drink in this bar, where Ernest Hemingway still has a bottle of booze behind the bar waiting for him.
Living his last days out as a librarian, Casanova wrote his memoirs in a no-holds-barred style, every gritty detail. He never actually got those memoirs published and handed them over to his nephew, who eventually sold them to a publisher. But being the tide and times that it was back in the 1700s, they couldn't really publish the memoirs as written. So the publisher gave little snippets of the story of Casanova in a very censored style, and that's the way it remained for centuries. The publishers kept the original manuscript safe for many centuries. In fact, it was kept so safe that during World War II, when the building was bombed, the manuscript remained intact. Then it went on an interesting journey where it was recovered by US military personnel and couriered across Europe in an armoured vehicle to ensure that it got back to the publishers where it first started. Then, to line up with the swinging 60s, the first ever uncensored version of the manuscript was released. And the legend of Casanova that we know today just grew and grew from that point on. The islands in the Venetian lagoon are worth hopping about. They might even be worth the skip and the jump too. If you want to see us doing more island hopping, check us out when we did it in Croatia by clicking this link just here.